despite being successful from a monetary standpoint, there's something wrong.
There's always things we don't know about what we don't know. Is this belief system defining me in other areas of my life?
People don't see the possibilities of what their money could be.
It's like that limitless scene pill. My mind's going crazy, right? Dark room meditation, 60 hours, no light whatsoever.
The greatest gift is to be able to accept your success.
We put out these grand dreams and people are like, oh, you're delusional. It's like, well, what delusion are you buying into?
Each financial decision is not in a silo by itself. It has to be looked at how it relates to something else in your plan. And most people are not looking at the big picture.
This is John Smallwood, and today we are on Money Isn't with a very special guest, Michael Mahoney from Upgrade. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Honored to be here.
Honored to have you. I want to start off by asking a very simple question. When you heard the name of the podcast, what popped into your mind?
It was a feeling first, and it was like, ooh, that smacks. Right? I really love the name because it's one of those like grabbing attention. We say money is a lot and money isn't. It, especially in the world that I'm in, you know this in Upgrade, we're always looking at the language of the belief systems. So when I started to hear money isn't, I'm like, man, you're going to start to deconstruct a lot of belief systems around money, which is perfect because that's probably the main thing people think about all the time.
Yeah. And the relationship with it, which is the crazy thing. Before we jump into that, though, I want to talk. I mean, right now you are involved in a company called Upgrade, which is helping people really find their vision in life and really figuring out what the hell they really, really want.
Yeah,
and that's really the essence of it. And we'll dig into that deeper.
Yep.
But I want to go back in your timeline of your journey. And how you've had, I've heard so many different career points, and I want to kind of, as you step into these, I want to talk about the relationship that you had with money and how it evolved over time, because my feeling is people at different points, at different lives, they have different learning experiences. And so it's learning experiences that you either learn or you don't learn. And I think you've learned a lot. So let's just go back in time. I mean, I heard you were a boxer at one point.
Yeah, not a financially successful boxer by any means.
How old were you when you were a boxer, though?
So, my mom's not going to like me saying this, but I started when I was like 6 years old in the backyard with my cousins.
And you grew up in Boston or outside of Boston, right?
Yes, I was born in Boston. I lived there until I was like 5 or 6, and then my parents took me to New Hampshire.
Oh, yeah.
And but I still had family members around that area. And so my dad and his younger brother, my uncle, they were like, they were young guys when they had me, right? Well, not my uncle, but my uncle was around babysitting. He's like, they always thought it was fun to be like, yeah, let's
put some boxing gloves on.
Exactly, right? This is entertainment, right? So that's what they had back in the early 90s. Now I'm dating myself, so.
Yeah.
I'm 37, by the way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, money with boxing wasn't really correlated. That was more of a passion. My father is a martial arts instructor as well.
Oh, wow.
So ninjutsu is the study, the discipline he's trained in. So that, I kind of used it as a cheat code for boxing because I saw people boxing and I was like, well, my father taught me ninjutsu. So I would take that into boxing. Now, I did get penalized a lot because ninjutsu is it's more self-defense than anything.
Right.
But again, it wasn't for money that I was doing it for. It's just because it was fun. So yeah, there wasn't really any financial or even a dream behind that. Also, I used boxing because it was great for speed and quick movements, and my love really was football, and that's what I wanted to be in.
And you played in college, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Where'd you go to college?
University of New Hampshire.
Ah, good old UNH.
Yeah, it's one AA school, but I blew up the running back that they were recruiting on a high school state championship game, so then he came up to me and asked, the coach at the time, Chip Kelly, you ever heard of him?
No.
So Chip Kelly was the head coach for the Philadelphia Eagles for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And he was the head offensive coordinator for UNH at the time. They were recruiting a running back out of Manchester High. We played him in the game. They did beat us by like 5 touchdowns. I got to put that out there.
Yeah.
But I had a pretty good game. Blew him up on a couple plays, and he had to sit the rest of the game out. So they came up after me and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I honestly was like, "Man, I don't think I'm good enough for football because I'm only 5'7", man."
Yeah, right.
And so I was like, "You guys are pretty big up there." But he's like, "Yeah, just walk on, see what happens, you know."
And you did, and you played all.
I played for 2 seasons before I tore my ACL.
Oh.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I was like, you know, I'm not going to go pro. How many times do I want to go through this?
Do I need to get beat up?
Yeah. I'd seen my dad kind of go through the injury, so it's like, that's enough for me.
Smallwood Wealth Management is the lead sponsor of this podcast. You have an opportunity to have a free, no obligation conversation with one of our qualified advisors. Go to smallwoodwealth.com, schedule a call, or call us at 800-797-1000 and get on our calendars. So you graduate UNH. What's the first job?
The first job, like the first formal job, I would say was selling inkjets and toner cartridges, printer supplies, at a company called OEM Connect.
And that was door to door, or was that on the phone?
That was a mixture of both, right?
And that was to businesses.
Yeah, B2B, but also B2C. So we'd like mom and pop shops that had like old printer supplies. We would liquidate them, give them like wholesale pricing, and then we go off and we sell them as well.
Oh, wow.
I'll be honest, it was a boring job, man.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Yeah. I know way too much about Ricoh and Kisero printer supplies and Konica than I care to ask. But I mean, at one point, I was 26 years old, and with commissions, I got over 220K.
So it's huge.
So
26 years old, and even in today's dollars, that's really powerful.
I didn't know what to do with the money, but I was also doing like wholesaling real estate back then.
Okay.
I grew up around my uncle. He was a private equity manager for a real estate company called Guggenheim Partners.
Sure.
Asset manager for them. And then my uncle and grandfather had fix and flips, multifamily rentals around the Boston area. So, you know, you kind of emulate the men that are in your life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was like, hey, let me help out. I was like 12. They're like, go change the doorknobs, you know?
Go figure this out. Yeah.
Get the rent for us and collect the rent from us. So I started to have an appreciation for real estate when I was younger, and it never really generated me too much money. Although that I realized later in life it was more about my mindset rather than real estate, because you can make a lot of money in real estate. Yeah, it's more about the mindset. I'm sure we'll talk about that later on.
Yeah, but what was your mindset that prevented you right there from actually, like, because you're making a lot of money.
Yep.
You're 26.
Mm-hmm.
Are you investing it in real estate at that point, or are you just spending it?
A little bit. I was spending it more than investing, that I would say. I mean, it's because that while I love my parents very much, I'm going to say this, the learning that I had was that I adopted my mother's 9-to-5 worker mentality, right? And so she was brought up in the school system where the money goes to the 401k and the Roth IRA and whatever else the government gives them in the school systems.
Whatever
right?
is provided through work, the
exactly.
workplace environment.
And it's interesting because, again, my father is, you know, he's the older brother to my uncle who's in the real estate world, but for some reason in our family, we didn't really talk about real estate. So I wanted to do it, but my mindset was not to work like an entrepreneur. It was to work like a 9-to-5 person, right? So generate income, and then it would just be like, okay, well, what car can I go get? I did convince my mom to go 50-50 with me on a property when I was at UNH at the time.
Okay. Student housing type thing?
Student housing for friends, yeah.
Yeah.
Me and about 6 guys who lived there and paid rent with each other.
Yeah.
That turned out to be profitable for a little bit until I messed up and made a mistake. I don't think we should go into that, but yeah.
But the lessons learned were really well done.
Yes, lessons learned or later down the road, I would say, not immediately. Yeah. So
how long do you sell for the toner?
About 6 years, just under 6 years. Yeah.
So you're 30ish and you decide to do real estate? What's the next jump?
Yeah. So what year was that? I can't remember now. 2015. 9 years ago. I'm 34. I can do math. So yeah, I'm just about 26, 27 years old. Okay. It was actually after I had that big year. Around that same year, there was way too much snow going on in New England, and I was like, I'm tired of shoveling this. And I had buddies out in Colorado, and the real estate has actually started to really pick up out there for wholesaling.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to go to Colorado. I'm going to be a ski bum. And at the same time, I'm going to pick up all the real estate. And that was my mindset,
Right.
right? My mindset had a lot to do with it too.
Ski bum, pick up the real estate wholesale.
Yeah, because you
flip
can
it.
definitely do both at the same time, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
No,
dream, that's a dream come true,
I
actually.
know plenty of ski bums who are real estate investors at the same time.
I have a
say
ski
that.
bum in my heart, but I've never actually done it.
Yeah, I say that sarcastically because I was way more of a ski bum than a real estate investor. I didn't have the mindset to become a true real estate investor in Denver. And I figured that out with some very hard lessons on fix and flips. You know.
Like money lost.
Oh, yeah.
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 Which is one of the greatest lessons.
It's even a greater lesson when it's not your money.
And now you got people that are mad at you.
Yep.
Family.
Friends, family, hard money lending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hard money lending is hard.
Yeah.
Friends and family will forgive you.
Yeah, they forgive you. You got to do a lot of favors. You got to make up for them, which I've, completed that energy exchange and more. I put myself in a lot of credit card debt and took cash advance to pay back friends and family that I didn't pay back on promises. But the hard money lending, as you know, they take the asset. So it's like, well, that just hit my credit pretty hard.
Hit the credit hard, and then your equity now gone, so now you can't pay back the other people. So then you go to credit card, which is 18, 25, 26%. And you're now, so what are you doing now? Because you're not selling and not making 220,000
Yeah.
doing this. So like, what are you doing?
Well, here's in the background, I've always been a pretty successful poker player. So
That's what I've heard about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When growing up in the Boston area, poker was kind of big. My grandmother actually taught me and my dad. So I learned
It was massive. I went to college at Bentley, and I'm from New Jersey. I don't play. And in New Jersey, a lot of people play.
Oh, okay.
I go to school, and everybody's playing.
Nice.
I'm like, I'm not playing.
At Bentley, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like the dorm was full of it going on. The gambling was off the charts.
You wouldn't think it's too prominent in the Boston area, but it is.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And the amount of money lost, and the bets and the bookies and the stuff, like, crazy shit. But
And I think a lot of my mindset around money was developed around that too, because there's an addiction to gambling, right? I mean, we've heard it all the time. It's like, it's that high. I got to come back for it. And like when you have a big pot, like there's a rush.
like that thing in front of you, like you're all in.
Yeah. I remember being 18 years old, going up to the dog track in Salem, New Hampshire, and you could start to gamble up in Salem, New Hampshire at 18, right?
Yeah.
I won like $5,000 one night, and you're not supposed to claim over $5,000. So I just like dumped $300 and then walked out with $4,700, and I bought it for $200. So that to me was like, the ROI was crazy, right? But the ROI also is, I wasn't disciplined enough back then to think of anything more than like, hey, you had a good night, but what did you really do well? So I didn't study money. I didn't study my mindset. I didn't study poker back then. So I lost that $4,700 pretty quickly.
So you're for work.
So yeah, so in
Your real estate's down.
yeah,
Now you're
back
playing
in
poker.
Denver, I was playing in Black Hawk, Colorado, playing cash games. I would pick up tournaments, and I had started to actually study poker, and I took some online courses at that point.
Fabulous. Like the art of it is.
It's also human psychology, which I love.
Yeah.
I love sitting at a poker table and just picking up on the reads and seeing someone just twitch a little bit and be like, I think they're trying to actually sell me on their hand. Yeah.
Or are they just twitching?
There's a whole lot of presuppositions that go with it.
Yeah.
But what I think, just like anything in life, compounding interest of time doing something eventually leads into the mastery.
Yep.
So I was using poker as my way to really survive financially. And I really didn't have to survive too, because I was making a good amount of money. My girlfriend at the time, she's like, I didn't realize you were this good at poker. I was like, yeah, all right. But the real thing that hurt from me in the real estate was more my reputation.
Correct.
Right.
So now you're not doing it because your reputation is
I
hurt.
was still doing it, but I was known. I started to get that reputation like, hey, don't talk to Mahoney. 3 fix and flips in a row, right?
Yeah.
So I had to get creative. And around that time, I started studying this guy named Sean Rockadich. And I apologize, Sean, if I mispronounced your name there. Airbnb automated guy.
Oh, yeah.
And he was teaching people on YouTube how to do short-term rental arbitrage, right? So you would go to, say, you're the landlord of a property, you're the owner of the property, and say you're having trouble with vacancies or you just don't want to do it, right? You don't want to do all the stuff. I come to you and be like, hey, John, what is it that you're pulling in revenue a month? How about this? How about I give you, let's just call it, let's 3,000, right? How about I give you $2,500, man, and nothing you don't have to do anything. Any maintenance, I got it. Anything comes to
You're
problem.
signing a lease with me for $2,500,
Exactly, right?
and now I'm going to go do short term.
You're not going to do anything.
No, you're going to do it.
I'm going to do short term.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let you know, hey, I'm going to run a business underneath your business if you're cool with that.
Yep.
Everything's on me. I'll get the license for the lodger's tax license. I'll pay for everything. And then I would talk to people and make sure that they were cool with it. I really wanted to run a business. Like, hey, I want you to know I'm going to run a business underneath you.
It's very profitable.
It was. And it was actually working pretty well in Denver. And then around 2019, after I took my first training with William and Upgrade, that's when I decided to actually hit the Vegas market because the Oakland Raiders were coming to Las Vegas.
It's going to be huge, yeah.
So all those properties around the Raider Stadium, I was like, man, I had a buddy out there, like, dude, we could really take this over. And not only were the ones that we didn't take into as arbitrage, we would wholesale them or we would actually fix and flip those. My buddy was in construction, so we were doing fix and flips better then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're turning this into a complete business. You got the short-term rentals, you've got fix and flip, you're doing it in Vegas, and it's good.
Yeah. I mean, it was good, besides living in the Vegas part.
My wife's sister moved out there when they got married first, and it was...
I mean, it's a beautiful
there was
city.
nothing out there.
There's some good stuff. Summerlin's nice. Henderson's nice.
They lived in Henderson, yeah.
It's just a lifestyle. It's just not my vibe. I'm more of a ski bum college guy where I love to ski. I love to hike outside. And I just fell in love with Colorado. Yeah. So interesting.
So you find Upgrade, you find William, but there's a program that's running in your brain with this. Like you're not, despite being successful from a monetary standpoint, there's something wrong.
For sure.
What is it?
I'm going to give a description actually that Ken Adams, who you know Ken very well.
I know Ken very well.
Ken's our head coach for Upgrade now, extremely intelligent guy. I'm going to give his analogy because I think it works very well, right? I don't know if he shared this with you yet.
I don't know.
We call it the 4 success leaf clover.
Yep.
Has he shared this with you yet?
I don't think so.
So picture a 4-leaf clover, and on the top is mindset. And then you got other 3 leaves, and you got skills, network, resources.
Okay.
And really this is when they're all kind of moving in forward, then you have success in all areas. And now imagine shrinking down the mindset circle. Now that's basically where I was at that point. I had some skills that I had developed over here. I was starting to, which I think were a little bigger than my network. My network was starting to develop bigger. And the resource bubble was, depending on what you classify as resource, it was a bigger bubble. But my mindset was small, man. Like,
interesting.
So
when you say small, let's just talk about it was
limited
from a flip perspective. Like we're going to do singles as opposed to doubles and triples.
Even beyond that, limited with beliefs of what I deserve, limited with what's possible and what's potential. This training with Upgrade, human beings, we delete, distort, and generalize information all the time. There's about 20 million bits of data flowing around at us at all time.
Right.
But our mind, and I mean our conscious mind, only brings in 126 bits of that. But the rest of that data doesn't go, it goes into the unconscious mind.
Right. It's seeping into your unconscious mind.
Exactly. So at that time, my 126 bits of my beliefs around money was very, very limited. I had a lot of either ors and boundaries that I hadn't broken yet. In 2018, when I was doing real estate, those were when I was doing 20 to 25K in revenue per month. That's when I got invited to a conference in Utah, and William was one of the guest speakers there.
Okay. So in essence, if you go back to the 4-leaf clover concept, so you've got mindset, you've got resources, you've got
skills and network.
Yeah. So you actually had a 3-leaf clover.
Well,
because your mindset was so small, you didn't really see it.
It's still a 4-leaf clover. Just imagine that one up there is smaller, right?
Yeah.
And what we do in Upgrade is we expand the mindset one so it overlaps all of them.
Correct.
Right? So the more it overlaps all 3 of the other areas, the easier it is for a human being to expand the boundaries of their reality because you've expanded the boundaries of your mind.
Correct. Right. So you've expanded that. You've realized that your mindset was your issue. It wasn't your resource. It wasn't your skill set. It wasn't any of that. It was the mindset.
Yeah, and that was the inspiration. when I first expanded my mind training with William, I was still living in Denver at the time. And as soon as I did it, not as soon as I did, I would say about 3 weeks after I did my first training completed with William, and that was January of 2019. That's when I was like, wait, there's a ton of opportunities around me at all time. I just got to become more resourceful. I got to expand my network. So I started doing a bunch of research. It was like that limitless scene pill. My mind's going crazy, right?
Like all the possibilities of everybody that's around you, and you haven't connected those dots yet.
Exactly. So I'm starting to expand out, and my mind all of a sudden, I remember sitting in an Airbnb that I had rented because I actually had a condo of my own that I was renting out. Just to
Airbnb for a short term.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and something just said, look into Las Vegas. And I really like correlate that to the training that I'd done with William and Upgrade at the time. So I looked in Las Vegas, and I was like, man, there's a bunch of opportunities there. Who do I know out there? I remember this construction guy, and I hit him up. So that's kind of started the mindset was starting to grow and go into those other 3 areas.
Interesting.
Oh.
So you go out to Vegas, and now that you have a larger mindset, is this the success that you were searching for?
In the beginning, it definitely was.
Cool.
Right? I think I needed some validation for myself too. I think we all need it at some little level. We're like, hey, I'm getting results in some way. So the time, the energy, all the effort that I'm putting into this, it's actually rewarding, right? And we get that through our external. You get that through someone telling you, hey, good job, or usually money, which is why I love your money podcast.
Or thank you. Or, it's whatever it is. It's whatever that feedback is that gives you that energy to say, this is really good. I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
So you grow the Vegas market.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still there?
I'm there until COVID. Because then when the city of Las Vegas shut down, I was like, well, this is weird. Because I would take my motorcycle down like the Vegas Strip.
Can't even imagine.
And it's just like, it's that scene from I Am Legend with Will Smith, just everything shut down. I remember ripping it down, going like 130 miles per hour, just right past the Vegas sign. And there's a cop just like waving at me. He doesn't care because Vegas was shut down, dude. And that kind of put and that put a big hit on our short-term rental because we're all about the hospitality industry, the travel industry. And all of a sudden that's gone.
People aren't coming to games. People aren't coming in for whatever show, for this, for that. So it's gone.
We had to pivot and obviously reduce prices, but then change our business model and go to first responders mostly. The firefighters, the nurses, start doing 2-week to a month stays with them. But then we also had to like tiptoe the policy lines and really sanitize and make sure that we were doing all the things right by Airbnb because they're really coming down.
So now costs are jacking up.
Yeah. And
rents are jacking down.
Yeah. It was pretty much a net neutral for a while, a little bit of a net positive, and then I'm just living in Las Vegas and I was like, all right, if the world's going to end, I'm going to go up in the high mountains in Colorado and protect myself.
I don't want to end here.
Yeah.
I'll end out there.
Exactly.
I'll tell you a funny story. So I said that my sister-in-law moved out to Henderson, and then we started having kids. We're having our second kid. They're having a christening for the first kid. We can't stay at our house because my wife's allergic to dogs. So we're like, we got to get a hotel. We're bringing the family out. We're bringing 2 kids out. And we stay at the Luxor. And when you have kids, it's very hard to travel through time zone changes. They do not adapt well, right? So we're out. First night, we get in. My middle son, who was like 8 months, maybe 9 months at the time, maybe 10, he gets up every morning at like 5. So now it's 2 a.m., 3 hours behind the New Jersey time, and he's up. And he's like up the crib. He's like, hello, hey, So I end up taking the 2 kids, chucking them into the double stroller at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning because I want my wife to sleep. And I'm out on the Strip at 3 o'clock in the morning looking for a breakfast place to go have breakfast. And like, if you're driving down the Strip, which you were solo when you're driving down the Strip when there's nobody there, I'm there. There's thousands of people at 3 o'clock in the morning. Now I'm in a breakfast place and people are looking at me like, DIFUS needs to be called. Like, what is this guy doing with 2 kids in a stroller at 3 a.m. in the morning? Right?
Get some food, man. I'm hungry.
We got some food, but like, I can't imagine the Strip being not vibrant.
Yeah, it was eerie. And plus, all the homeless people who were living in the tunnels underneath the Las Vegas city started to come out too. I don't know if you know about that.
I know of it, but
it's a real thing, and I didn't know about it until it happened.
But there's like a city, right?
Like 20 to 25,000 people live in these tunnels underneath the city of Las Vegas, right?
What are the tunnels from?
I don't know, construction back in the day. You can YouTube it. Brady can probably figure it out. Pull it up YouTube. Are you going to be what's our Jamie?
There we go.
Yeah, so it was wild, man, because I had never heard about it. And all of a sudden COVID happens. And then I'm noticing a lot more homeless people because picture it's like flies going towards like the buzzer light, right?
Yeah.
Flies, the homeless people basically depend on Las Vegas for their food and their water.
For the garbage and all the stuff, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It shuts off. Now they're starting to come into the suburbs of Henderson and Summerlin. And I just remember like going to the grocery store one day and there was like hundreds of them outside of it. And I was like, what is going on?
Where'd they come from?
Yeah.
It's like an apocalypse.
So I go back home and my buddy who I'm living with, and he's like, dude, did you hear on the TV, like they're coming out from underneath the city? I was like, what? So that kind of started me like, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, right. So you give up the leases, that business is gone.
I sold my equity in most of the leases to my business partner and let him take it because he was going to stay in Vegas.
Okay. So
600 miles of tunnels, by the way.
Yeah.
from what?
Underneath Las Vegas, they constructed 600 miles worth of just different tunnels, ducts.
600 miles of tunnels and ducts under Vegas.
Yeah. And people were living underneath there.
Did we know what the purpose of those tunnels were for?
A lot of it looks like water runoff, storm drains, construction that started and stops, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I
Holy
mean, that
crap.
makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Wow. It's like a whole city under a city.
Yeah. And Vegas is kind of weird enough.
That's really weird.
So when that's going on, plus you don't really know what's going on with COVID yet because it's like May of 2020. May of 2020 when this is going on. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go back to Colorado.
So you go back to Colorado.
Yep.
What do you, like, you're defeated at this moment?
Not really.
No.
Because I had that success and my mind had started to expand and I was working with William even more at that point. I had paid for his second training and a master practitioner back then.
Oh, yeah.
And it really had started to open up like the only thing holding me back in this life is me. So when I got back
incredible. Yeah.
when I got back to Colorado, I had all new lens of the world. We talked about the 126 bits.
Yep.
Now that I had removed anger and fear, and let me be more specific. Now that I had removed the charges and the unresolved and unwarranted feelings around those, because you can't remove the negative emotions, but I had got solutions and resolution to them, my mind was seeing more clearly now. Okay, I can live in a beautiful state like Colorado. I can ski. I can do real estate. I can go off and network and have all these skills. So my mindset, as Ken's used that diagram, has begun to overlap into those other three areas, and I took off pretty well in Denver.
Interesting. So you're doing that, you're training, you're growing that business. What's your shift where you even upgrade even further and you become part of this?
That would probably be, I attribute it to February of 2021.
Okay.
And I had broken up with a girl that we were off and on for about a year throughout COVID, but I think the relationship made it deeper during COVID because COVID was a weird time, right?
Totally weird time.
So you only hung out with very few people.
Yes.
So I think I was more into the relationship than the relationship actually had true potential of it, right?
Because it was the only thing that you knew and it was your only thing every day.
And I had also tied a little bit of success to it as well. Okay, I'm successful in this relationship, plus I'm doing real estate, plus my mind's improving all through 2022.
Right.
And
Because the whole short-term market started to boom.
yeah. And
Like it was incredible, especially in Colorado.
Colorado had started to take a little bit of dip because it became saturated,
Yeah.
but still that's a limiting decision even by saying that. So I started to find opportunities, right? I started to
There's
do,
opportunity in every saturated market.
Yeah, I started to do luxury short-term rentals with high-end realtors, which was fun.
Interesting.
Easier, just bigger money.
Yeah.
But anyway, so February 2021, Valentine's Day, I'm single, right? And I'm starting to feel some old emotions pop up. And I've been through even more training with women at this point. And he's like, listen, I wouldn't recommend this to many of our students, but you're a guy who's gone all in with me. You really have shown a ton of growth in the time that you've been with me. I'm going to suggest to you a dark room meditation, right?
So a dark room or darker?
Dark room meditation.
Okay.
Complete darkness, right? And it's a simulation of death.
Interesting.
So you sit in complete darkness. I did for 60 hours, no light whatsoever.
Where do you do this?
So a guy that I was living with at the time, he had a basement bedroom with those egress windows. We put tin foil over the egress windows, put a towel over that, took off all lights, put duct tape over it. There was one entrance into the bedroom bathroom, and he put up cardboard over that, put a blanket over it, and then he's like, I'll see you on Sunday night. And
Holy shit.
yeah, because he actually went camping with his girlfriend. And I had asked him, I was like, hey, man, do you mind if I do this? And he's like, first he was like, thought I was joking.
Yeah.
Right?
He's like, you're insane. But
He's like, you want to do what?
huh? Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that was a huge catalyst for me because there were things that there's always things we don't know about what we don't know. And sitting in darkness for 60 hours really gave me a lot of things to think about. A lot of shadows came up for me, past family lives, and whether it's real or not, it was real to me in that moment. So I got the lessons.
So you got the lessons, and
Yep.
you're sitting there. You come out of the dark room, and what is the lesson? What is the learn? What do you do next?
So there was an integration period that I definitely needed. And William had told me that was going to be needed, like maybe like a week or 2 weeks.
To get back into society? Is that what you mean by that?
Not really get back into society, but kind of have my map of reality integrate with the map of reality, right? We talk about this in Upgrade. We all have our map of reality, but then there's the map of the reality, which is outside the external.
Right.
My map of reality had been fragmented so much in the dark that trying to put the pieces back together was trying to literally pick up puzzles of my internal map of reality and start to put them and rearrange them back together. Language that I'd used about myself, language that I used about my family, language I used about money, all of it was scattered. So it was that's why I choose it as the catalyst, because as I was doing it, you know, we used to call our podcast God Mode.
Yeah.
It felt a little bit like that. I was seeing literally the pieces of my identity at one point, and I was like, well, I don't want that anymore. What do I want? And I started to just rearrange it. And then over time, over the next, like I would say 3 months, that truly compounded it into just massive flow state for me.
And where did you find yourself? Where did you land?
I was still in Denver at the time.
Yeah, but like as far as career, like where are you going? What's that direction, and how are you thinking about this next level?
So William had actually asked me at the time to come on and be the only coach with him, right?
Okay.
So I'm starting to help out with William. John Madsen was a partner with William at the time with Upgrade X, so they're getting a lot of success. And basically, William and John can't coach everyone. So William's like, hey, do you want to be the head coach for Upgrade? And as students come in, you're the coach. You're the guy they talk to.
Yeah.
And at first, I'll be honest, there was 2 reasons I was hesitant to do it.
Sure.
One, it was that you've met William. He's very, very good at what he does.
Extremely good.
Right? So a little bit of imposter syndrome on my side. Like, hey, this wasn't the career I wanted to choose, man. I just really love this neurolinguistic programming. I really love what you teach. And I just
I'm
wanted
a
to
real estate guy. I'm this.
yeah,
I'm
it was
that.
for me. Like I didn't think about helping this with other people. And the second was the money. Like there wasn't, like he offered me good money, but I was making way better money real estate with high-end luxury Airbnbs and playing poker back in Denver and, you know, just doing other stuff. But there was something that about it, I was like, well, first of all, I'm going to get to learn from William, train underneath him.
Really deep.
Right? So I'm going to get behind the curtain peek to this. How much is that actually worth?
Unlimited.
Right? So I'm going to download that information. So I'm going to get a lot from that. And then I'm going to actually get to coach people who are financially successful, more successful than me. I would say about 80% of the clients that I coached in the first year made way more money than me. And I'm talking about like one guy I was coaching was making $10 million a month.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, a little imposter syndrome too. But
how can I coach you when I'm not even making whatever?
I remember
a tenth of that.
Not even a tenth.
Yeah, exactly. 100th.
Yeah.
The
10th would be, if it was 10th, I would have loved it. But I had something, I knew I had something that he hadn't had and that many of our students hadn't had yet. I had that unlocking where my map of reality really was beginning to integrate faster. That I had done so much resolve of past negative emotions that it wasn't so much about the money, that I had massive clarity about who I was.
Interesting.
And I think that's a very desirable trait for every human being to have, is massive clarity of who they are.
So despite this person, I'm just going to go to this person because it's interesting for a second. He's generating 10 million in profits.
Mm-hmm.
He's missing something.
Yeah.
But in the real world, like everybody's like, oh, 10 million.
Yeah, well, why couldn't you be happy?
Yeah, like what's wrong? Like what's wrong with that?
Yeah, without sharing his name, freedom of mind.
Freedom of mind. So you shift him.
Yeah. He wasn't free within his mind and with his heart, really, of how he wanted to do things, who he was doing it with, right? So if we go back to the four-leaf clover of the success clover, there's skills, there's network, there's resource, and there's mindset, right?
Yeah.
But there's also a spiritual side that encompasses us all.
Which is in the mindset, yeah.
I think it's deeper than that.
Do you?
Because I think the mindset is made up of skill sets and an accumulation of beliefs
Yep.
that come to us throughout our lifetime, just like your body and my body is an accumulation of mass and food we've taken in,
Yes.
right? Our
Good and bad.
Exactly. It's just energy that's coming into our body, right? But this accumulating comes to our skeletal, our muscular. This is us. Our mindset is accumulation of ideas that we've downloaded at the conscious and the unconscious level, which forms our belief systems and our values.
A cluster of beliefs.
Right? Clusters of beliefs, clusters of values. The spiritual side is something that, it's bigger than us.
Yeah.
And I think that his mindset, while it was very powerful with money and resources and skills and networks, he wasn't free of mind spiritually. So I helped him with language unlock that part.
And the question that everybody's probably thinking, did he make substantially more than 10 per month?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. And got a lot more enjoyment out of it.
I would say so.
Because I think that's something that I know a lot of people.
And let me just be very specific.
Yeah.
He did the work. We're just the guides.
Correct.
Yes. We can only guide someone there. They have to do the work.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think is really interesting. Being on my journey, 34 years in financial services, 56 years on the planet, right? You have certain beliefs. You have things that, how you grow up, who you associate with, who you are, and those things form your clusters and the way you believe about certain stuff. And then there's things that come along and they expand your boundaries. But a lot of people come back because they don't expand outside of it. And they get that little bit of elastic, like this is going to be fantastic. And then some event occurs that creates a trigger and it brings you back to the old pattern.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that you guys have discovered in so many people. Like I was just at this massive conference in San Diego, 5,000 people. And, everybody's there is a winner. But everybody's there is a winner at a different level, right? And there's a lot of feeling shitty about yourself, even though you're a winner, to be there because that guy has 2 Ferraris or that guy has, whatever it is. And I think the great thing is what I've learned in this process is it's okay to be success. There's a reason that you back off when you get successful or you get out in front of your skis and people are like, get back, you're gonna fall, fall forward. And it brings you back. And I think what you guys do and what you did to yourself, I don't know if it was in the dark room or the dark room allowed you to bring everything back into this clover. But I think I'm trying to frame this in the right way from the perspective of the greatest gift that I think is a result of the thinking and the training is to be able to accept your success and to accept that you actually have a much greater potential than what you're actually allowing yourself to be because of the clusters. And you don't see the clusters, then all of a sudden you see the clusters and now you can't unsee them.
I remember your moment when you had that at the event and you kind of pulled me inside and talked very much like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's spot on. Once a human being understands that like they've been holding themselves back and they really do deserve all these things and that, sometimes we put out these grand dreams and people are like, oh, you're delusional. It's like, well, what delusion are you buying into?
Yeah.
What limitations would you like me to buy into? If there is a delusional world, I'll buy into the beautiful one.
Yeah. I mean, virtual reality, right? You can put on a pair of goggles and live in a virtual world.
Mm-hmm.
What says you can't make that reality in the real world? Exactly.
What you brought up earlier, let's like double click on that real quickly. When people go back to old patterns,
the old patterns.
The path of least resistance is just the path that's most familiar, right? So the mind is a beautiful predictor of energy using. So if it's already know how to do something, even if the behavior or the program is destructive, meaning, hey, I overeat when I know I shouldn't overeat, right? Or
Overdrank, over this.
exactly.
Overspend.
It's usually overconsumption too, right?
Under earn.
Exactly. Don't budget right, and you know that people very well, right?
Yeah.
It's just because that's what they know, and it's the path of least resistance, so it's most familiar to them. When people step out into the unknown, the unfamiliar, that's when all of a sudden the mind does something which it's programmed to do and gives a warning signal and goes, hey, we've never been here before, right? It's a protective mechanism.
Yeah, danger, danger, danger.
Exactly. Like, hey, do you want me to go down this path? Because I've never been down it before, so I actually have to use more energy to help you out going down this path.
Right.
So that's where I believe we're a little different, because we didn't discover this. Many great people, psychologists, discovered this before. I believe that Upgrade helps people design and then install with that warning signal. So we leverage the warning signal. And when at that warning signal point, we go, what do you want instead?
Right.
And install that now. And after you install it now, you've expanded the boundaries of the mind. Therefore, you expand the boundary of your reality.
And when you think about it from a wealth management standpoint or a financial planning standpoint, we encounter people every day at different stages of their, let's say, their journey on this ideal that we've all been bought into, which is retirement, right?
Such a good play by them.
The amount of things that the financial institutions have led us into is a really interesting whole other conversation that would be a few hours.
They're the masters of illusion.
They're the masters of really bad training.
Yep.
Right? But there's this, people don't see the possibilities of what their money could be. They look at it, as you said earlier with your mom, like there's these narrow decisions, this narrow focus planning trap. Like, like I got a job. I need to do this. I need to do a 401k. I need to put money in a savings account. And they do certain things based upon whatever the people around them have told them to do, but they're missing this bigger picture.
Yep.
And they have these visions of, okay, I'm going to retire, and they have no hobbies. They have no life. They just go to work, come home, repeat. Go to work, come home, drink, repeat, whatever it is, eat. And it's sort of like you're not understanding what your money needs to do in order to get to where you want to go. Like people miss the fact that they get to design their present and their future and their retirement.
Yeah.
And, they talk about traveling, but then they don't travel because they're afraid. And I think part of like the evolution of what we do in our business, and a lot of my clients will, even before I found the whole Upgrade concept, it's like, aren't you supposed to be telling me to save more money? You're my financial advisor, and you're telling me to spend more in retirement. I'm like, well, that's the plan we built, so you can enjoy your capital and pass it off to your family.
Not Scrooge McDuck.
And not live, because your kids are going to back a truck up and spend it all.
Yeah.
Right? Because they haven't earned it. You've earned it. You get the right to deserve it. And that's the conversation that there's certain things that go on where people believe that they shouldn't enjoy their wealth. I'm a product of the Depression. My parents grew up in the Depression, or whatever it is, right?
So true.
And they don't live their lives because they're afraid of running out of capital. They're afraid they're going to be that statistic. And I think what's been interesting in my journey is that there are strategies that you can put in place that prevent you from ever running out of cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many strategies that you can do, right? And you diversify them. But then on top of that, like, it's like you talked about it earlier about compounding, right? People believe that things are in a linear fashion, that, 1 + 2 is 3, and then, it just keeps stacking upon itself. In financial strategies, there's elements that you bring together that when they come together, whether, real estate with cash, with debt, with, sinking funds and depreciation and other financial products being there to support them, when they come together in a unique way, you actually get a much better outcome.
Yep.
Right? And what my goal of having you on the podcast today was to really, one, I wanted to get your journey, but what I wanted to do is to understand, now that you know what you know, if you could go back to the 26-year-old guy who was selling copiers making $200,000,
Mm-hmm.
you had this knowledge, because you didn't have the knowledge till the dark room, or you didn't have the knowledge till some point, right?
Yeah, until I started training with Upgrade. Yeah.
Right. And I always look at this. There's a reason for the journey. There's a reason that you had to go through the struggle, or for whatever you want to call it. But what if you didn't have to? What if you could have learned that at 26?
Oh, man. I talk about that a lot. There's a couple of our coaches right now that are 22, 23, a couple of our students who've gotten their kids at 12, at 13. I'm like, man, if I had these skills back then.
It's dangerous.
Right? Well, in a beautiful way.
In a beautiful way.
Right?
And I say dangerous in a beautiful way, because dangerous is you're unstoppable in
Exactly.
every form
I get
and
what you
fashion.
mean, too. I just like to add in beautiful to everything.
Yeah, me too.
So
Wonderful is my term.
my main mission and purpose with working with Upgrade is that I do not believe there's a lack of logical intelligence in our country, especially with the youth. I believe there's a lack of emotional intelligence. Now, people are doing the best they can with the skills and the resources they have available to them.
Correct.
So to your point, there is so many financial strategies out there that one could capitalize on.
Yeah.
But if they have a belief system, a structure that they don't believe they deserve it, and they have fear and sadness and guilt and shame overlapping, that will overlay onto any financial strategy that you or anyone else give to them.
And like you said earlier, in an oversaturated market, there's tons of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You could have the best elements in your plan. You can have the best components structured in the most unique way. But if you don't believe in it, it's going to suck.
And I hope to get these skill sets. We will get these skill sets to future generations of children, because they're shaping, right? And if, to your question, right, if I could go back in time, that is what I would tell my 26-year-old self. That's what I will do for my children. They will get taught emotional intelligence but combined with logical intelligence.
Yeah.
Because I can teach them all the facts and the data in the world, but if they get charged when they're 14 years old with sadness or hurt or guilt, and they're not resourceful enough to understand that that's another human being and they're just like you, they're just going through some stuff, then I'm really not giving them the true skills, the true wealth that I want to pass down. To have control and freedom of one's own mind.
Yeah, because money without an instruction manual, money without tools is actually worthless.
I definitely believe so. And I would like to give, I guess, some tangible suggestions to your audience right now. If you are having struggle with money, even if you're making good money right now, I would encourage you to write down linguistically 3 beliefs you have about money, and then see if you have any charges toward them. Because once you start to identify on a piece of paper, because words do not just describe, but they define your reality. So linguistically write down, and kinesthetically feel this as well, any belief structures, 3 of them, and then begin to ask questions. Is this actually true? Is this actually serving me? Is this actually getting the results that I want? Who is this defining me as? Is this belief system defining me in other areas of my life? If you start to ask those kind of questions, you'll realize that the belief systems may or may not be yours. Well, let me give you it. It is yours, but who did you take it from?
Right, and you take it from everybody.
Yeah.
And all your interactions that you have, they form you. And my question is, or my comment on what you just said is, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've met people who make $10 million a year, and 3 years later they're not, and they don't have any money.
Mm-hmm.
I have guys that make deep into the 7 figures, and they can't save money. And I have people that never made more than $100,000 a year and have multiple millions of dollars. And it is the mindset. Like, we as financial advisors, in what I do, I can't help somebody be successful unless they have the right components of their brain. Right? When we get people to think about the right goals and to understand, why can't you save money? Like, people do a thing on the internet today where they compare themselves to everybody else. That's what the internet is about, right? It's all about comparison, right?
It's a great vanity metric, right?
Yeah. So if I could say, okay, everybody that makes $500,000, they save $100,000. Like, how many people actually could raise their hand and go, oh, we save $100,000? And when I say save, I don't mean put it in a bank account. I mean deploy it strategically in a wealth management plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, how many people actually do that one fundamental thing? Not many.
I would guess in like less than 3%, maybe.
I doubt it.
I guess it depends what room you're into.
Yeah, like there's certain rooms that we're in, and you have like, oh, people save a lot of money, but the average person, because of their belief system, won't save that.
Yep.
That's the shift. Like who, and this is what I've been, this journey of my 34 years of connecting dots and going through different trainings and rejecting and then refining it again and finding it in a different format and then go, oh, I've learned this 400 times. Why do I have to learn this for the 401st time?
Yep.
I'm sure I'll go 402 too, okay? But that's a belief system, right? Once you crack the belief system that you can actually create wealth and you have control over your job, you have control over your expenses, you have control over where you live. This is the most beautiful country in the world. People come here every single day with a dream and they find opportunity everywhere, regardless of the economy. Interest, I can't buy real estate now because interest rates are high. It's the greatest time to buy.
There's always opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Warren Buffett will say that up and down until he's blue in the face.
Yeah.
I think with your tagline, with money isn't, a lot of people say money is your exchange of value of what you get in the marketplace. I actually would say that's what money isn't.
Correct.
Money is the representation of your belief systems with you and the external.
That's beautiful.
That's what I think money is. And the more that someone dives into who they are, the more they're going to find that money flows to them faster, as long as they expand who they are.
Now, I'm hoping that people that are listening to this want to reach out and they want to get more information. Where do they go?
Our website, upgrade.com, UPGRD, no A-R-E, because we're real cool like that.
Yeah.
And then my Instagram, the.michaelmahoney. It's another good place. We have our resources for our podcast, things like that.
And God Mode Podcast.
It's actually called Upgrade Your Life now.
It is. Upgrade Your Life. That is official.
Yes, because God Mode, I guess we were challenging too much of the norm, and we don't want to challenge people and ruffle their feathers too much yet.
Yeah.
I would. William is nicer.
So I would, very, very, very highly suggest that do you still have the $100 program?
We have the entry level focus challenge.
Yeah.
So that's actually something that somebody can get for free on our website.
It's free now.
Yeah, it's free on our website. We have an entry level program called Resolution Self-Guided. That's $1,000. That's the upgraded version of the focus challenge that we now just do for free. Because the self-guided, William redid the entire curriculum, and there's more community coaching, community interaction. So there's a lot of high entrepreneurs who are like, hey, I just want to test out Upgrade. Like, cool, man, $1,000 or woman, excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think jumping in and doing that will open your mind to a whole new level of possibility, regardless of where you are on your timeline.
I would hope so. And I hope I really mean this. Money is very valuable to us, right? There's a Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It does feed into it, right? But your potential is more valuable.
Correct.
And once you open up your mind, it goes beyond money. Like if you had told me back at the 26-year-old version that my main motivation now would be to get emotional intelligence into the education system so I can actually see, I guess the interaction of human beings be more cohesive and loving and coherent, I would have been like, who the heck do you think this guy is?
Yeah.
Right?
And by doing this passion, by following this thing, you actually, the money follows.
It has followed and it will keep coming.
Correct. In exponential ways.
That's right. And same to you, my friend.
Same to you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here today.
I appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure.
I was got short arms.
Me too. That box, even though I'm 6'2". That was awesome.